Lindsey Vonn crashing just 13.4 seconds into the downhill final, skiing in a brace just 9 days after rupturing her ACL in her left knee.
13 seconds. That is all it took for Lindsey Vonn's Olympic dream to turn into a nightmare that millions of people watched in horror on live television. The beloved skiing legend barely made it past the starting gate before she was sent cartwheeled down an icy mountain at 140 kilometers per hour. And what happened next was so disturbing that Olympic organizers had to blast music through the speakers just to drown out the sound of her screaming. The crash that stopped the Olympics. On February 8, 2026, the women's downhill final at the Winter Olympics in Cortina, Italy, was supposed to be the crowning moment of the greatest comeback story in all of sports. Lindsey Vonn, 41 years old, was the 13th racer out of the gate that morning. Millions of people around the world were watching. Her father, Alan Kildau, was sitting in the stands. Snoop Dogg was in the crowd. Everyone was waiting to witness something magical. Vonn tapped her poles together 3 times and pushed out of the starting gate. And then, before she even reached the first timing marker on the course, her right ski pole snagged a gate at the crest of a jump in the upper section of the mountain. That one tiny catch was enough. At speeds approaching 140 kilometers per hour, the snag jerked her completely off balance. Her right shoulder and arm clipped the gate. She was sent spinning sideways through the air, twisted helplessly over her own skis, hit her head during the tumble, and came crashing down hard on her back with her skis crisscrossed beneath her body. Her mandatory airbag inflated on impact. She did not get up. Then came the part that nobody who watched it will ever forget. Her microphone was still live. The broadcast picked up Vonn screaming in pain on the mountainside. Reports say she cried out, that she could not feel, and that she could not remove her skis. The crowd, which had been buzzing with excitement just seconds earlier, went completely silent. The Washington Post reported that a hush fell over the entire venue as the screams echoed across the Dolomites. The race was immediately stopped. Medical teams rushed to her side. She spent somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes being treated right there on the snow before she was strapped to a stretcher, zipped into a red evacuation bag, and loaded onto a yellow medical helicopter. The helicopter lifted off the mountain and flew directly over the heads of the spectators gathered at the finish line. The very people who had come to watch Vonn cross the finish line in triumph instead watched her being evacuated above them into the sky. It had been exactly 13.4 seconds from the moment she left the gate to the moment her Olympic dream ended. And this was not even the first time she had been airlifted off a mountain that month. To understand why this crash hit the world so hard, you need to understand the insane journey that brought Lindsey Vonn back to the Olympics in the first place. Because what she did over the past 2 years was something that had literally never been done before in the history of competitive skiing. The comeback nobody thought was possible. Vonn retired on February 10, 2019, at the World Championships in Sweden. She won a bronze medal in her final race, but her body was falling apart. She had torn her LCL, suffered 3 fractures in her shin bone, and could barely bend or straighten her right knee. She wrote on Instagram that her body was screaming at her to stop, and that it was finally time to listen. She walked away from the sport at 34 years old with 82 World Cup victories, 3 Olympic medals, and a body she described as broken beyond repair. For 5 years, that was the end of the story. Lindsey Vonn was retired. Done. The greatest American ski racer in history had finished. Then, in April of 2024, something changed everything. Vonn underwent a procedure that had never been tried by a competitive skier before. She got a partial titanium knee replacement in her right knee using a robot-assisted surgical system. A custom-fitted titanium alloy implant was placed in her knee along with a synthetic meniscus made of polyethylene, and for the first time in over a decade, the constant, grinding pain in her knee was gone. Vonn said the difference was like night and day. She said she had not felt that good in 15 years. She could straighten her leg fully for the first time since she could remember. The titanium knee did not just reduce her pain. It gave her back the ability to ski the way she used to. And just like that, a comeback that nobody thought was even remotely possible suddenly became very real. She announced her return to competitive skiing on November 14, 2024. By December, she was racing again, and by the following season, she was not just competing, she was dominating. On December 12, 2025, Vonn won the downhill at St. Moritz by a massive 0.98 seconds and became the oldest downhill World Cup winner in history at 41 years of age. She cried during the national anthem. She won again at Zolchensee in January 2026, bringing her career total to 84 World Cup victories. In 8 World Cup races that season, she finished on the podium in 7 of them. She was the clear gold medal favorite heading into the Olympics. Then, 9 days before the Olympic downhill race, everything nearly fell apart. The injury that should have ended everything. On January 30th, 2026, at the World Cup downhill in Crans-Montana, Switzerland, Vonn was wearing the red bib as the discipline leader. She was the 6th racer to start and had the fastest time at the first checkpoint. She was flying. And then she awkwardly landed a jump, lost control, got spun around, and slammed into the safety nets. She was tangled up in the nets for several minutes before slowly getting to her feet. She gingerly skied down the hill, stopping repeatedly to grab her left knee before being airlifted to the hospital. Conditions had been terrible that day. It was snowing with low visibility. 2 other skiers had already crashed before Vonn even started her run. The race was eventually canceled after 3 of the first 6 racers went down. But the damage to Vonn was already done. On February 3rd, she confirmed the devastating news. She had completely ruptured her ACL in her left knee. It was 100% gone. She also had a bone bruise and meniscal tears in the same knee. To put that in perspective, the ACL is the main ligament that connects your thigh bone to your shin bone and provides stability to the entire knee joint. Without it, the knee becomes unstable. For most athletes, a ruptured ACL means surgery and 6 to 9 months of recovery. The Olympics were 9 days away. Everyone assumed she was done. There was no way she could compete in the most dangerous event in alpine skiing with no ACL in her left knee and a titanium replacement in her right knee. It was physically impossible. Or at least, it should have been. But Vonn posted a message that stunned the entire sports world. She wrote that if there was one thing she knew how to do, it was a comeback. She said her Olympic dream was not over, and that it was not over until it was over. She went to work. She posted videos of herself doing box jumps and heavy squats to prove her muscles could compensate for the missing ligament. She wore a massive custom brace on her left knee. On February 6th, her first Olympic training run, she finished 11th. On February 7th, the day before the race, she posted the 3rd fastest training time. Her skiing looked smooth, confident, almost impossibly normal given what was going on inside her knee. The night before the race, she posted one final message on Instagram. She wrote that she would stand in the starting gate knowing that the odds were stacked against her because of her age, her missing ACL, and her titanium knee. But she said she still believed. She ended with words that now read like both a prophecy and a farewell. She wrote, "No matter what happens, I have already won." Then, race morning arrived under the most beautiful conditions imaginable. The moment the world held its breath. Race morning broke under perfect skies, and Lindsey Vonn entered the start with a quiet belief that this could be her moment. She had said openly that without Cortina, this comeback might never have happened. As she slid into the gate as the 13th racer, the air crackled with expectation, commentators calling it one of the most anticipated Olympic runs in decades. Then, in an instant, everything went wrong. Vonn was violently thrown off balance and sent cartwheeled through the air before the race had even begun. What started with hope flipped upside down without warning. Fellow racers later explained that downhill skiing demands razor-thin margins, getting as close to the gate as possible, and Vonn had pushed that line just a fraction too far. While Vonn was being treated on the mountainside, something remarkable was happening at the bottom of the course. Her teammate Breezy Johnson, who had raced earlier with bib number 6, was sitting in the leader's chair with a time of 1 minute and 36.10 seconds. Johnson had her own incredible story. She had torn her ACL on this exact same Cortina course in January 2022 during training, which knocked her out of the Beijing Olympics entirely. She then served a 14-month ban for missed anti-doping tests. And now, here she was, waiting to find out if she had just won Olympic gold. As the race resumed after the long delay caused by Vonn's crash, Johnson sat and watched racer after racer come down the mountain. Nobody could beat her time. When the 36th and final skier crossed the line, Breezy Johnson was the Olympic champion. She had won gold by just 0.04 of a second over Germany's Emma Eicher. She became only the second American woman in history to win Olympic downhill gold. The first was Lindsey Vonn at Vancouver in 2010. But the detail that made this day truly unforgettable came at the press conference afterwards. Johnson revealed that while she was waiting at the bottom of the course, watching the helicopter carry Vonn away from the mountain, she received a message from Vonn's coach. He told her that Vonn was cheering for her from inside the helicopter. Even while being airlifted in pain with a broken leg, Vonn was pulling for her teammate. Johnson could barely hold it together as she spoke about it. She said her heart ached for Vonn and that it was such a brutal sport sometimes. She said she did not claim to know what Vonn was going through, but she knew what it was like to be on this course, fighting for the Olympics, and to watch those dreams die. She said the emotional pain was something else entirely, and that everyone could deal with physical pain, but the emotional pain was on another level. In a small but perfect detail that captured the chaos and emotion of the entire day, Johnson's gold medal broke into 3 pieces during the celebration. The ribbon came apart as she was jumping up and down. She held up the broken pieces at her press conference and said through tears and laughter, "Do not jump in them. The surgery, the silence, and a legacy written in scars." Vonn was first taken to Cotevilla Putti Hospital in Cortina for immediate treatment, and then transferred about 80 miles south to a larger hospital in Treviso. That afternoon, she underwent orthopedic surgery to stabilize a fracture in her left leg. The U.S. ski and snowboard team posted an update on social media platform X confirming that Vonn had sustained an injury but was in stable condition and in good hands with a team of American and Italian physicians. The full extent of her injuries from the Olympic crash included a broken left leg and a head impact from the tumble. These were on top of the injuries she was already carrying from the crash 9 days earlier, including the completely ruptured ACL, bone bruising, and meniscal tears, all in the same left knee. Her right knee still contained the titanium partial replacement from 2024. Both knees were now compromised. The reaction from the sporting world was immediate and overwhelming. IOC President Kirsty Coventry called Vonn an incredible inspiration and said she would always be an Olympic champion. FIS President Johan Elias thanked her for everything she had done for the sport, and then, remarkably, said he would not count her out for the 2030 Olympics in the French Alps. Michaela Schifrin posted a broken heart emoji. Sofia Goggia said she was sorry Vonn had been taken away by helicopter. Rafael Nadal called her a great inspiration and told her to stay strong. What makes Vonn's crash resonate so deeply is the staggering pattern of injuries and comebacks that define her entire career. In 2006, at the Turin Olympics, she was hospitalized after a bad training fall and competed 48 hours later. In 2010 at Vancouver, she raced with microfractures in her forearm and won gold anyway. In 2013, she suffered a catastrophic crash at the World Championships that tore her ACL, tore her MCL, and fractured her shin bone. She was airlifted from the mountain that day too. She missed the 2014 Sochi Olympics entirely because of it. Then she retore the reconstructed ACL during training later that year. She fractured her ankle in 2015. She shattered her arm in 2016 so badly that she had to practice writing the alphabet just to regain hand function. Her career totals tell the story of someone who pushed the absolute limits of human endurance. She finished with 84 World Cup victories, which is the third most in history. She won 45 downhill races more than any skier, man or woman, who has ever lived. She earned 138 World Cup podiums, 20 Crystal Globe titles, 3 Olympic medals, and 8 World Championship medals. She is widely considered the greatest American ski racer of either gender and one of the greatest alpine skiers in the history of the sport. There is a debate happening right now across the sports world about whether Lindsey Vonn should have raced at all. But was it worth it? The question nobody can answer. Some people believe she was reckless. They point out that she was competing on a completely ruptured ACL that was only 9 days old, on the most dangerous course in women's skiing at 41 years of age, with a titanium implant in her other knee. Medical experts had warned before the race that competing without an ACL was an enormous risk. Others see it completely differently. They see a woman who knew the risks better than anyone on Earth and chose to race anyway. Surgeons from the Hoag Orthopedic Institute pointed out that in an elite athlete like Vonn, whose neuromuscular control, strength, and experience are extraordinary, racing without an ACL can be feasible in ways it would not be for most people. Vonn herself addressed the risk the night before the race. She acknowledged the odds were stacked against her. She acknowledged the age, the missing ACL, the titanium knee. But she said she still believed. She had earned the right to make that choice. What cannot be debated is that her crash was caused by a pole catching a gate, not by her knee giving out. The pre-existing ACL tear may or may not have been a factor, but the immediate cause was simple and brutal. She went too close to the gate because that is what the best downhill skiers do. She pushed to her absolute limit because that is the only way Lindsey Vonn has ever known how to ski. And sometimes, when you push that hard at 140 kilometers per hour on an icy mountain, the margins are so thin that a centimeter can be the difference between gold and a helicopter. CNN ran a piece on the day of the crash, arguing that Vonn's Olympic journey, despite the way it ended, was anything but a failure. Her comeback from retirement, from a knee replacement, from an ACL rupture, 9 days before the race is already being called one of the most extraordinary athletic journeys in modern sports history. She came back when everyone said it was impossible. She won when everyone said she was too old. She raced when everyone said she should not. And even from inside a helicopter, being carried away from the mountain she loved most, she found it in herself to cheer for her teammate. As of right now, Vonn has not made a public statement since the crash. She is recovering from surgery in Italy. Her condition is stable. Nobody knows if she will ever ski again. The FIS president said he would not count her out for 2030, but she would be 45 years old by then. The realistic expectation is that February 8, 2026, was the last time Lindsey Vonn will ever stand in a starting gate. Her own words, written the night before, turned out to be the most fitting summary anyone could have written. No matter what happens, I have already won. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let us know what you think. Was she right to race, or should she have stayed out of the starting gate?